Hi guys, this is Jagdpanther and I'm back with the Weakspot walkthrough, and this time we're gonna have a closer look at the rank 4 German tanks. And I'll start with the Ferdinand. I'll go from left to right. There will be timestamps in the video if you want to check a special tank out, so you can in that case go directly to that specific tank. So let's begin with the Ferdinand. This tank has a lot of armor at the front, and it has a few weak spots that you may exploit, but don't mind hitting these bits here. The armor on these bits are too thick. You can actually see the thickness of the armor right here. That's a lot of armor, 20 centimeters to be exact. When I've been playing the Ferdinand, the way I've been knocked out has been in two ways, or actually three ways. The first way I've been knocked out is by a shot to this bit here. You see it has a effective thickness at around 125 and above millimeters depending on the angle. And if you get hit here, what happens is that very often the transmission gets set on fire, or it catches fire, or you hit the radiators behind the crewman here, and that will cause the tank to start burning. And if you don't have a fire prevention kit, you're toast. And if you do have a fire prevention kit, it only takes 3 shots here to knock out the tank. The other way I've been knocking out Ferdinands has been with larger caliber guns. I've been concentrating on firing at these two bits on the side of the gun, and I'll show you now why the tank has been knocked out once you penetrate this piece of steel. Right next to the gun, you see here's the ammo racks on each side. If you hit these bits right next to the gun mantlet and you penetrate, you will knock out the tank. And the third way is obviously a shot from the side. The Ferdinand has very little armor on the side, or it has some thin armor, 80 millimeters. But what happens when you penetrate this area here is that you have a almost 100% certain hit into ammo rack with your shot, and that will knock out the tank instantly. So that's how you knock out the Ferdinand. You need to go for a low shot or try to hit the area right next to the gun mantlet on each side. So let's move on. Let's start with the Tiger II, the Porsche variant. And a very popular way of knocking out this tank is to try to aim for the low glazes of the hull. However, the low glazes of the hull is pretty thick, and you see if you're facing the tank head on, it's 200 millimeters, so you need an angle like this or something to penetrate the tank at the lower hull. Don't even try knocking out the tank by an upper hull or an upper glazes shot. What you want to aim for, if you only see the upper part of the tank, is that you want to go for these bits here, the lower part of the turret, and this area around 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock on each side of the gun, because these bits, I'll show you the tank from the side or at the angle. You see these bits here are non-sloped, and the bits below that are basically shot traps. So if you hit the tank like this, the shot will ricochet down into the tank and knock it out. A lucky shot might be hitting the upper part of the turret as well. That might penetrate. You see the turret is pretty weak when it comes to armor defense. Like 140 millimeters is a easy number to negotiate with the Russian tank gun. So what happens if you hit the turret? Well, you knock out gunner and commander on the right side, and then you hit the ammo rack at the back, and that will kill the tank. You can also, if you go for the left shot here, or the left side shot, you knock out the loader and then you hit the ammo rack. And if you fire at the shot trap here, you will have a bounce that will go into the fuel tank, and that will knock out the tank. And if you go for a shot at the lower hull, let's say the King Tiger is crossing a ridge or something and you're waiting for him, and you fire straight into this bit of armor here, you'll hit the transmission, and after that you may hit the fuel tank, depending on the angle. If you don't, you will knock out the engine and cause critical damage and kill crewmen. So that's also a good idea. That will definitely stop the tank. It may cause a fire in the oil inside the transmission. So let's move on to the Henschel Tiger, or the Henschel King Tiger, I mean. This tank is pretty much the same as the Tiger II. I'm not going to mention the low laser shot because these tanks share the same hull. What's been happening to me when I've been playing the Henschel Tiger is that I've been knocked out by heavy Russian guns, 122mm guns, that has come up close, or the tank's been close, and then knocked out the tank with a straight shot to the front of the turret. The front of the turret is red marked, or marked with red, but it's still not thick enough to stop a shot from ranges below 200 meters if the Russian tank is using AP AG rounds. That's probably the weakest part about the King Tiger Henschel. This bit of armor here in the front of the turret is pretty non-slope. That's a bit of a weak spot. Some of the smaller caliber guns may bounce shots on the turret here, but I was looking around for weak spots before I decided to make this video, and I found this bit up here. It's very well angled, you see here, but it's only 40mm thick, and that means that if you hit here and you penetrate, you only have to penetrate 157mm of armor. Of course that increases depending on the angle. Like if you have an angle like this, don't even try knocking out the tank by hitting upper part of the turret. But if you get a shot like this, let's say you're slightly above King Tiger, you might penetrate the roof of the turret, and that will send the shot inside here and then bounce on this bit and then go down into the back row, the ammo, and that will knock out the tank. So the Henschel Tiger is a bit tougher to kill, but it's totally doable. You just need to get pretty close in order to knock it out, and try to knock it out by hitting the front of the turret from closer ranges. If you can't do that, the best way to knock out the tank is just to go around it and try to fire at the side, because you can see here all these parts of the tank contains critical parts for the tank, and if you hit these you will knock out the tank. So over to the Panthers, and we're starting with the Jagdpanther. The Jagdpanther is also a very tough nut to crack. Probably the easiest way of knocking out the tank is by hitting the low lasers here. That will cause a fire in the transmission, or that will cause the oil in the transmission to burn, and repeated shots at the low lasers here will knock out the tank eventually. You may also go for a shot right at the bottom of the gun mantlet here, or the Schweinkopf, as the Germans call it. If you hit this area right below the gun or right next to the gun, you will probably knock out crewmen, hit the engine. It's a possibility. And if you're really lucky, the shot will deflect off to the side and into the ammo racks that are here, situated next to the side wall on the flank of the tank. So that's the easiest way of knocking out the Jagdpanther. The harder way is to go to close the distance and to get close enough that you will penetrate this frontal plate here. It's 80 millimeters thick, but if you face the tank head on, it's about 125 millimeters, depending on the angle. And in order to knock through that kind of plate, you need to get pretty close. I would say about 500 meters. So if you're within 500 meters and you're using a potent anti-tank gun, you're pretty much free to shoot wherever you want. I would probably choose a shot with an angle out to the side of the tank in order to hit the ammo rack. But if you fire on the right side of the tank, let's say around here, you will knock out half the crew, and that's not bad either. So that's also a good way to knock out the Jagdpanther. The best way is to go around it, just like with the King Tiger, and to penetrate the side of the tank up here. If you do that, you will hit ammo racks and knock out the tank. So that leaves us with only one tank. I'm not going to cover the Kugelblitz because that's a Panzer IV, and well, if you can't penetrate the Panzer IV, you're doing something wrong. So yeah, the Panther. Basically it's the same thing as with the rest of the other German tanks. Go for a low laser shot. You may also hit this machine gun port. It may trap the round, and it's also non-sloped right where the machine gun is. If you hit that, you will go straight through, kill the machine gunner, take out the loader, and if you're very lucky, you'll hit the fuel tank. You might also hit the ammo on the left side if you're very lucky, but a fuel tank shot will knock out the tank. Your second option is to go for a very low shot on the turret. You see here the turret is only 100 millimeters thick, and if you penetrate through that, you will knock out multiple crew, and that's basically it. If you're lucky enough, the shot will bounce into radiators, fuel tanks, or maybe even ammo at the back here, and that will also be a kill. What I tend to do, however, is that I tend to go for the gun mantlet here. It's supposed to be an improved gun mantlet, free from shot traps, that the Panzer Kampfwagen 5 Ausführung A has. It has a rounded gun mantlet, and what that did was that it sent shots into the top of the tank. But a straight piece of armor like this is also a good target to penetrate the turret of the tank. You see here it's only 120 and above in thickness, depending on the angle, and that's not much. It's okay for a medium tank, but if you're facing IS-2s, you're dead meat. And IS-2 can easily, or Su-100 can easily knock through the gun mantlet on this tank. And if you're going for a lower shot on the turret and you hit the gun mantlet instead, you'll probably penetrate and knock the tank out. So the best way, however, is to fire at this rectangular bit here, or the side of the turret, and I'll show you why. Up here there are some ammo situated, so if you hit that, you'll knock out the tank. And in the back you have fuel tanks, so if you hit those, you'll cause a fire or an explosion, and that's a dead tank, obviously. At the side of the turret, you've got killing shots on the crew, and you might also knock out the cannon breech and render the gun inoperable for a time. Way here in the back, you can see that there are threads acting as based armor. Where those are the fuel tanks. They're protecting the fuel tank. So if you want to cause a fire in the tank, go for these bits. But not if you're firing high explosive anti-tank rounds. Those will get eaten up by the tracks. And if you don't want to knock out the Panther by a fire, you go for this bit here. That's where the ammo is. So a hard choice between two good choices, so you get to decide on that one. So that was the German rank 4 tanks. Let me know if you want me to make a video for the rank 5 tanks, and I'll make one. So anyway, see you guys around, and thank you for watching.